We would have Dr. Hakan Hassan Najib as well. Dr. Usman, how would you summarize the salient features of Uraan Pakistan? And you think it's a workable program? I mean, of course, the country like Pakistan, we need to have some out-of-the-box solutions. So, does it provide all those answers we are looking for?
Thank you for your question. Uraan Pakistan is actually based on an ancient wisdom. This 5-year plan stuff was done in the mid-20th century and it became an exemplar for other countries as well. So we're going back to some of that ancient know-how and trying to bring it back at a time when we say, okay, we might or might not be going in the right direction. There are challenges in the world overall. So what has worked for us in the past, let's go back to that. But the new thing in it is that the areas identified in it are comparatively new. For example, such an emphasis on environment, such an emphasis on e-Pakistan, the digitalization and all that, this is new stuff. So at least the 5 areas that they've highlighted in, I would say, are contemporary in nature, and they'll certainly be important in the next 5 years, which is the tenure of this program. So at least you're getting the continuity in policy that you mentioned earlier. I think that's an important feature of this.
But continuity of the policies, and Dr. Nasir, I would really like to ask you about the continuation of the policies, but first, we have Dr. Hakan Hassan Najib with us on the video link. Thank you. Fine, small business is fine, but as far as the agriculture is concerned, so I'll get back to you on this. And Dr. Usman Saab, if you are going to export the agricultural products from Pakistan, but should it be not the priority of the government or the state to first safeguard the rights of the people of Pakistan, you know, as far as the food security is concerned? First, I should have the wheat or the other edibles within my access, and then if there's something access, then that could be exported.
I understand your point. The point is that you must prioritize your own people first. And this is true, but the ways in which we do it, it's more complicated in real life. For example, if you want to produce anything in this country, you'll find that the supply chain somewhere needs some imports. And if you need imports, you need foreign exchange. So you got to export, or you got to have remittances. So it all comes out in a complex balance. And I fundamentally agree with you that you have to prioritize your own people.
Here we are not talking in terms of business purely. We are saying that when we talk about, we think as a state of Pakistan. So the concept of a state is to be a welfare state. First, the priority of the state is to safeguard the rights and interests of the people of Pakistan in case here. So first you need to have a food security for the people of Pakistan. Only after that you can export whatever you are left with.
I again understand your point, but for example, do you manufacture the tractors? Do you consume the urea yourself? All of the stuff that you need to grow the food to feed your own people does have interaction with the rest of the world. Therefore, you got to sell something in order to be able to afford to buy something.
But what about the final produce? For example, we have the wheat. So should there not be the right of the people to get access to that product first and then?
Certainly. And I would agree with Dr. Saab that if you remove a lot of the distortions, you do have all of the endowments to be able to do it. But the distortions make people zakhira andozi, so hoarding behavior, as you said, and all of these middlemen involved, and all of these distortions make it so that it's actually more feasible to import from outside at times and therefore crush the farmers. And at times it makes it more feasible to export things outside because you'll get foreign exchange. These are all parts of the distortions. And just ask your farmers these days, are they happy with it? They haven't planted the wheat crop they normally plant. They aren't happy with the way things are either.
But we have seen in the past that like last government, they exported or allowed the export of sugar from Pakistan. And in the end, we ended up importing sugar for our own consumptions. And that cost us more.
Correct, because of the distortions in the timings and the licenses and the movement of things. This is done with policy. This is done by the state, rather than people looking at the concentrated open market to be able to do things. So if you have these rigidities, people respond to rigidities in a distorted manner. That's what it is.
Okay, so for instance, let me make me understand, please, and you too, Dr. Nasir Saab. For instance, if you open the market, Dr. Usman, first you, and you let the private sector operate freely, obviously within the framework of a law in place. So it is up to the private sector, or it's sweet will to export or import anything it wants. I mean, regardless of what people of Pakistan require.
The exporters, the producers, consumers are also people of Pakistan.
That is fine. But obviously, the businessman would look for the larger revenue it's earning, rather from selling its product in Pakistan or outside Pakistan.
But a good producer will look at it that they get a good domestic market, and the surpluses that they have, they will seek to export. It's not that they will send everything abroad without some distortions. That wouldn't make sense.
You just mentioned the callousness of a free market economy.
I'm not saying the free market is callous. I'm saying that government distortions make it hard for market participants to respond rationally.
If the governments make it responsible, the private sector, to first ensure the needs of the local population or the people of Pakistan, then obviously the private sector would object that the government is placing some sort of impediments in the exports of their businesses, and there would be another sort of storm of criticism facing the government. Dr. Saab.
Yes, government is, the private sector, the businessman is very rational. We have the market of 250 million population, and the other neighboring country like Iran, India, China, they are looking to us. And they are producing these kind of food items for everyone. Why not us? Let the private sector to produce any number of like wheat in any amount. Then allow them to export everywhere. But if you have the market, domestic market, the well-functioning domestic market, then the first priority for any investor to sell in the domestic market, because here you just reduce your transaction cost, and you are earning a lot of money from the selling into the domestic market. We have a very rigid type of NOC culture to even allow a flour mill. We have we allow cartel in the sugar industry, but why not we allow a free establishment of the flour industry in the country? Then there is a competition. If there is a competition, ultimately you can see the prices would settle where there is a equation in the demand and supply, and if there is any surplus, you can export it.
No, but Dr. Saab, you can hold the government responsible to first take care of the needs of the people of Pakistan, but as a regulator or as a government official, you really cannot hold the public entities or the businessman responsible, because the businessman would only look for the revenue or the profit he is generating from even the exports or selling the product in the local market.
It will ultimately resolve if you allow a free competition. If the wheat in Russia is relatively at the low price or cheaper, the importer definitely import from Russia. And then they create equilibrium in domestic market, and ultimately the exporter, those are looking where they can export. If the price, even I can bet that the price.
But my point was that while you are allowing a free hand to the private entities, you should have a strong regulatory framework in place first.
I don't think what you call what you mean by the regulatory framework. To me, the law would only come into play when there is any violation.
For instance, no one should have a monopoly on any particular sector.
Of course. The free competition means there could be no monopoly. Monopoly only created by the government. Private individuals don't have any capacity to create a monopoly.
I mean, there are several sectors where the private sectors have a complete monopoly.
Why? The question is why. That is super important, because the government is protecting those sectors. Government is subsidizing those sectors. There is no competition in these sectors. If government remove all kinds of subsidy, then in the next 3 to 4 years you can find a competitive market.
All right. Dr. Chohan, one of the 5 E's, it's about energy and infrastructure. And as we know that the power tariff, they are really high as far as the domestic and commercial subscribers are concerned. So in the next 5 years, is there any hope that these prices would come down, especially for the domestic users?
There is certainly room for that. Right now there's 2 competing forces. One force is the one that's pushing us to raise these, which is the IMF program, because it wants you to rationalize how things work. At the same time, you have a shift.
There's just one question. Rationalize how things work, or it's an easy money they can get out of the consumers?
Yes, that's precisely the point.
So we really cannot say that rationalizing. I mean, it's something that IMF would really push you for that, so that they ensure that their loan, which we are getting as a state of Pakistan, would be returned in due course of time.
Yes, and rationalization in this context means bringing some balance to it, because
Okay.
their argument is that it's too cheap relative to what it should be. Basically, they believe that Pakistan
Cheaper?
look at the rest of the world. I was just talking to a Bangladeshi. Everything in Bangladesh is twice as expensive, right?
Look at the per capita income of Bangladesh and
Yes.
Pakistan.
Yes, but why is that the case? That's a way deeper question, because you have depressed wages for so long. You've lived in a bubble, you've lived on an island, but you're not actually an island. And so you had depressed wages, depressed costs, and now IMF is saying, get into the real world and play with the rules.
And there are two answers. One, you reduce the power tariff, or you increase the income of every person in Pakistan so that they can afford even the higher tariff,
Yes.
whatever the electricity or gas charge is.
But that's
so
where-
what is the best option?
That's where the competing force comes. The competing force is that people are going off grid. They are solarizing like nobody's business, because when they can't afford this, the way that they're being forced to get into the world market is very painful
That's
for
true.
people. So they're just going to do their own thing. And ultimately, that'll be very hard for the government to manage grid stability. And this is not just a problem in Pakistan. Even countries like Australia are struggling to maintain grid stability, because those who can't afford solar will be the only ones left. And that'll be tough.
This is a very successful practical demonstration that at individual level you are going solar,
Yes.
right? And you are saving so much money every month you are otherwise going to pay to the independent power producer or the public sector company. So if at the individual level one can do it, so why not at the state level? For instance, the cheaper avenues of producing electricity, be it the hydel or the solar.
Absolutely.
Why not?
Absolutely. And I think that's been a matter of political will, because the way that the IPPs were brought in, the first wave and the second wave, was with different assumptions about the world that didn't pan out. They wanted to ramp up energy because they forecast huge GDP growth over the future 30 years, which hasn't happened in that way. So you're left stuck paying so much. GDP growth did not cover up for it because it didn't grow like they wanted it to. So now you have to work back those assumptions and wonder, why do you make these kinds of assumptions where it's actually better to have inclusive, sustainable growth rather than ramp things up and then end up not using that stuff?
Roshab, any word on that?
Yeah, I think energy is a very tough question about the way how we dealt this in entire energy sector. Again, you know that we monopolize energy in a many ways, and the policies that we created have a no connection with the next 5 to 10 years.
So what is done is done. What next?
Yeah, the next is, you know, the cost of energy would be very difficult to come down in the next 5 to 10 years. It will remain, at least if it's not goes up, it will remain in the same scenario.
No, what if you go solar, or
The
let's
solar
say
is-
build a big water reservoir to produce massive amount
For
of
that-
electricity through hydel?
If you go for the hydel, for that you need at least 10 to 15 years. There is no short-term solution. The short-term solution is only business. So the business only really want uninterrupted supply of electricity.
So the government should not focus on reducing the price of electricity, but to improve the economic plight of the people of
Yes,
Pakistan,
that's the only solution.
to improve their purchasing
Let the
power.
people to work.
Okay.
So the only motive, I would call that this year, the 2025.
So the people should have more money to pay more.
Yeah,
Okay.
this 2025 year should be called as a business year. Leave all the charter, something like that. Let's call this a business year, and with the ones like a clear policy direction by the Prime Minister is that from now to onward,
That is very
anybody
important.
can open a business with the two documents. One, your CNIC, other valid bank account. There is no additional requirement. And once you have the business, then if you violate the rule, then the government would have a key.
So we always talk about this austerity, sadgi, kanaat pasandi, but the thing is, why don't we encourage people to generate wealth through legitimate means, of course, you know, business, give employment to the people and encourage them to do it. And that is one of the main objectives of this Uraan Pakistan, that we should encourage the people at every level, you know, to start business, start generating wealth, generating money for yourself and for the entire nation. Why not?
There is a political economy behind this very important question. You have to keep people at the very surface level, so you can't allow them to grow actually above their
Why
surface.
not? I would be happy if my fellow beings are, progressing
then there is a
economically
question,
or otherwise.
Yeah, then there is a question of power. are you willing to reduce your power? That was one of my question to the new CSS probationer yesterday, that there is two choices for you: either to enjoy this power, either to curtail your power and deliver. Now, up to you people, you have to decide, because you are the future.
But enjoying power is not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. That's why we are
If
here.
you deliver, then you would not only enjoy the power, but you would enjoy it for a long, long time and generations to come.
That's what we are here. After 75 years, we are still struggling. What would be the next 5 years plan for us? If you look into this Uraan document, you can find so many other documents with the different names.
Yeah.
But where is the will of the government actually to implement this in a true spirit? For that, they have to to eliminate the entire culture of NOC. They have to give the uninterrupted power supply. They have to give uninterrupted internet connection. They have to allow people to do and make local investment and expand their own businesses.
So
then there is a question of FDI.
They should offer the maximum comfort level to the business community
Yes.
at any level in Pakistan.
Yeah, at any level. That is the only future. You know that we are struggling with the total factor productivity, the issue that we have, because this is the fear factor. No one knows what happened tomorrow.
Right. Final question, Dr. Usman. Now, Uraan Pakistan project launched. So, but I mean, we are impatient people, unfortunately, and we demand results overnight.
We are not. We struggle for last 75
We
years.
have struggled, but for instance, this Uraan Pakistan project launched. So at least we should give government some time to implement this ambitious project and wait for the results at least. So how much time you are looking for the success of this program?
They said 5 years, we should give them 5 years, but there are some big pressures on us. Our population increases by 3% every year. That means you're adding 60 lakh people every year. Are you going to find jobs for those people? There's in the background a great noise, which is the restlessness of our youth and our people. So I am a patient man, you are a patient man, Doc Saab is a patient man, but there is this background noise, this groundswell of frenetic activity, and we got to do something about that.
But we can have a positive angle of it, that of course we are adding 60 lakh people every year, but at the same time we are producing a very useful human resource at the same time. If we scale them, then we can have a very important resource at our hand.
Yes.
I just gave you the one example. Yesterday there I was meeting at the government that we have to send our kids, our graduate, to China to learn about agriculture. And in Pakistan, we have more than 50 institutions funded by the government just to create an agriculture expert. And what they are doing, that's the question to us. If they are not delivering,
we need to
let them
improve
try.
the working
If
and
the
efficiency,
something-
and also the reputation of such institutions, because sometimes people misunderstand them as well. We should give them some margin of doubt. But thank you so much, Dr. Nasir Iqbal, for joining us in the studio, Dr. Usman Chohan, for your valuable time, and thank you so much, viewers, for watching the program so far. Thank you very much, and Khuda Hafiz.